Hey y'all, welcome to Restless Chipotle Kitchen. Today, we're gonna turn your lasagna dreams into lasagna reality in about 30 minutes. So y'all, this is so quick and easy. I've already got my ground beef cooked. Most of the time with casseroles, you're gonna start out with cooked ground beef. So what I like to do is get a lot of ground beef at once at the store, and I use either 90-10 or 93-7. And I like to cook it all up and then just measure it out for casseroles as I make them. I started doing it because I would end up with ground beef that I had to throw out because I didn't get to everything that I wanted to cook that week, or something would happen. This way, I've always got it, it's always cooked, none of it's wasted, and it actually saves quite a bit of time. So we've got our cooked ground beef, and you're going to need a pound. Now, if you take a pound of raw ground beef, that's going to be about, depending on the fat content, about 14 ounces of 13 or 14 ounces of cooked ground beef. But in a casserole, it doesn't really matter. So however you want to do it, start off with a pound of raw and cook it, or start off with 14 to 16 ounces of cooked ground beef, and you're good. We've got mozzarella cheese, because how can you have lasagna without mozzarella? Now, y'all already know, if you've seen my videos before, if you've been over to the blog, I always start out with a block of cheese and grate it myself. This is because the pre-grated cheese in the package may seem like it's saving you some time, but it's dusted with cellulose, which is, I don't know, like, let's just say the equivalent of sawdust. It keeps the shreds from sticking together. It's perfectly fine to eat. It's not a health hazard or anything as far as I know. But what it does is it keeps the cheese from melting properly because it's coating it. So if you want to have that really good melty, stringy cheese, you definitely want to grate it, okay? And so get a block, grate your cheese. It's not that hard. You can get a box grater like this one, and you just put it down and just go like that, and it just takes a couple of minutes. Or if you have a food processor, you can do it in the food processor. With mozzarella cheese in a food processor, because it's soft, you might want to freeze it like for 30 minutes first just to get it to firm up. But grate it from a block. It's so different, and I'll finish grating this in a minute. And then the recipe on the blog does not call for Parmesan, but I happen to have some Parmesan that I probably need to use up. So I'm going to add Parmesan. Cottage cheese. I know. A lot of people are like, no, you don't put cottage cheese in lasagna. But for this lasagna, cottage cheese works really, really well. It helps it be more creamy. And if you want to use ricotta cheese, you can, but your final product's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little drier, a little less creamy. Try the cottage cheese, please. Full fat, large curd cottage cheese. I use Daisy brand. They aren't paying for this video at all, but they have like the purest dairy products, and that's what I always recommend, and that's what I always use, except for cream cheese. Okay, and then we have your favorite marinara sauce. This one is Italian herb. You want a 24 or 25 ounce jar, and then you've got that. So we've got, and we already talked about the Parmesan, and then the dry Italian salad dressing. This is Zesty Italian from Good Seasons, I think. Pretty sure. Yes, it is. And I use that for seasoning. So, and then, of course, our lasagna noodles. My recipe calls for 10 lasagna noodles, uncooked. I have 9 here, and so we're going to use 9 for this. Listen, if you're doing a casserole and you're missing a quarter pound of ground beef or a couple of tablespoons of cheese or whatever, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and do it. They're very forgiving. Stumbling over my words this morning. Okay, so I'm going to finish grating this cheese, and I'll be right back. All right, so the cheese is all grated. We're going to set it aside for right now. And I'm going to break up these lasagna noodles. And that's pretty easy. You're just, again, there's not really any particular size. You want them to be bite-sized when they're cooked, but just like that is fine. And if they break a little bit more while you're breaking them, that's okay too. You can also use any kind of pasta you want, macaroni, whatever for this, that's fine. I like lasagna noodles because it kind of makes it more like lasagna, I guess. But anyway, just break those up. Collect the pieces that are snapping all over your kitchen. If your ground beef is raw and you're cooking it you're making the casserole starting with raw ground beef, then be sure that if you use a type of ground beef that has a higher fat content than like 90-10, or yeah, like if it's 85-15 or 80-20 or lower than that, go ahead and be sure to drain the fat. If you're doing 90-10 or 97-3 or 93-7, whatever, then you don't have to drain the fat. But if the ground beef is already cooked, you are going to need, or you might want to put a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of your pan, okay? That'll keep it from sticking or scorching or anything like that. So I've already put about 1.5 teaspoons of olive oil in the bottom of my pan. I'm just going to do this. The other thing that I didn't mention before was you're going to obviously need water. You start with 3 cups with this, and then you just have to kind of reevaluate as you go. Sometimes instead of water, I use spicy V8 juice, so that's a possibility too. All right, we're going to put our ground beef in the pan. And I'm going to go ahead and warm this up before I add the pasta sauce and the remaining ingredients, just to get any fat, see how much fat I do have, and if I do need to drain any of it off. But let's head over to the stove. So I'm just going to heat this up to get some of that fat melted off before I add anything else in. And this is the part that you would be actually cooking the ground beef if you were starting with raw. And you always want the ground beef to be cooked before you add the rest of the ingredients to this casserole. Break it up really well while you're cooking it. The ground beef, I usually season it with a little salt and a little pepper. I assume that I'm going to add salt and pepper and other seasonings later on, so I try not to over season it. So that fat is melted off, and you can see there's like almost no fat in here. In fact, I don't think there's any. It's just mainly that oil that I added to keep it from sticking. So we're going to add the rest of our ingredients. We're going to add the pasta sauce. And then I'm going to pour water, and if I was using spicy V8, I'd use that. I'm going to pour water in here, put the cover back on it, give it a good shake, because we want to get all of that flavor that we paid for. And the jar is clean enough to go in recycling, and we've added 1 cup of our water, and then here's 2 more cups. That makes 3. Stir that up. I'm going to stir in the Italian seasoning, or the Italian dressing mix, and stir that up. And now I'm just going to add the noodles. Just put those right in there. Once you add the noodles, go ahead and stir it again and push those noodles under the liquid as much as you can. You want them to be on the underneath rather than on the top so that they soak up the liquid and cook. Now we're going to bring it to a boil. And once we do, we're just going to cover it and let it simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes. Coming back once in a while to stir it and scrape the bottom. Make sure nothing's sticking. Simmer is starting to boil around the edges a little bit, starting to bubble there. So I'm going to give it one last stir. And put the cover on and turn it down to about medium-low. And then I'll be checking on it every few minutes just to give it a stir and make sure that it isn't sticking to the bottom. Okay, it's been 20 minutes. Let's see how we're doing here. I'm gonna turn this down before I even open it up. Ooh, that's a lot of steam. Can you see all of that? The noodles are cooked and they've soaked up most of the sauce, which makes them extra special good because they've got all that flavor soaked right in. And now we're going to add the cheese. So we're going to turn the heat down to the lowest low that you can get. And we're going to add the cottage cheese first. And then I'm adding this Parmesan cheese. You don't have to, but I'm guessing this is about a cup. I'm going to add about half of it in and then half of it on. And then we're going to put about half of the mozzarella cheese in. And stir that up. Now what we're doing here is we don't want to boil it. We just want the cottage cheese to warm up and we want the mozzarella to melt. So we don't want it to come to a boil. We don't want it to bubble. We just want it to warm up a little bit. And if you get to this point and it's dry and seems to be like it was going to stick on the bottom, go ahead and add like a half a cup of liquid, tomato juice or water, chicken broth, whatever, and then go from here. Okay, we're going to leave that for 5 minutes. Not sure about that. We're not going to leave that for 5 minutes. What we're going to do is top it with the remaining cheese. So I'm going to put the Parmesan on that's left. And the mozzarella. And then we're going to put the top on it and just let that melt down and warm up for about 5 minutes. All right, I'll see you back here in 5 minutes. Here we go. Looks like the cheese is really melted and good, and I think this is ready to go. Look at that. Love that. Okay, so the cheese is melted. It took about 30 minutes all told, and the lasagna noodles are soft. The meat's done. It just looks so good to me. What about you? Let's see if we can get some of this on a plate. I want to get that cheese. Wow. Bet you a spoon would work better. What do you think? I am determined to get this cheese. No! Okay, well, maybe I'm not determined to get this cheese. I just want some of this on the plate. There we go. Look at that. Oh, look at all of that cheese. Y'all, this is the stuff. One pan, hardly any cleanup, just takes 20 minutes if you're using pre-cooked ground beef, maybe 30 minutes if you're not. Family's gonna love it. You're gonna love it. And really all you need to do is pick up a bag of salad from the deli on the way home, pick up a baguette. I've got a recipe for garlic butter on the blog that takes almost no time at all. And you have got yourself a really delicious dinner that took no time at all. And you gotta love that. I sure do. All right, well, that's it for today. I hope you'll come back next week. I've been trying to get videos out every week, but life has been a little crazy around here, so, and it doesn't, I'd like to say, well, that's over, it's gonna be better, but I can't say that at all, not in this family. So, hopefully it'll be next week. If not, it'll be soon. And don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe to the email so that you can get all of the new recipes from the blog and every time there's a new video. And yeah, that's about it. Love y'all. I'll see you next week. And Decky and Emmy, mind your mama. Love y'all. Bye-bye.